Part of the fun of Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord is growing your own kingdom. But what that really means is a lot of city and castle management. And a lot of you people have actually told me, hey, I'm having a lot of trouble dealing with the management system. And when I first took a look at it, it didn't seem too complex. But as I started to drill down and spend more time, even hours and hours, I realized that the city management system is actually quite complex. So in this video today, I'm going to drill down on those individual mechanics of cities, of castles, and thusly villages. Villages are managed through both your cities and your castles. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the steward and engineering line. Now, as a quick disclaimer up front, we do need to discuss the fact that some features have not been fully implemented yet, and they will change. So I do want to just kind of hit that on the nose before we dive into city management and close the video with talking about castle management. But I think if you are struggling with dealing with either a city or a castle's management system, this video is definitely going to help you out. And it really is just kind of reading between the lines because there's a lot of little nuanced information in each of the individual tooltips. And there's a lot of information that the game just doesn't provide to you because you kind of have to look at the, I guess, socioeconomic level of the game and kind of say, okay, this is where I need to do this, this, and that. So we'll discuss all that as we jump into our city management. And here we are at our city of Jalmaris. So I do want to give a quick shout out to Border Collie PT. He was nice enough to send me his save of a city. No matter how hard I tried Durthert of Valandia to give me a city, he just kept giving me castles. But he was nice enough to send this over, so a huge shout out to Border Collie for this save. Now, let's go to the keep. We're just going to go through this list from the top to the bottom. So we're going to go to keep, and from here you can imprison both nobles and enemy armies, and that's done through the dungeon. You're going to go to that, you're going to go to manage prisoners, and then you would just send people over that you would see fit. You can see we already have some prisoners currently in our dungeon. They will not convert in this section. They have to actually be in your party. So if you want them to convert, you run around with them in your party, and eventually this will highlight one at a time and you can convert them. Now, you can also do this with nobles just the same. And it looks like the ability to ransom those nobles outside of going to the tavern district isn't implemented in the game yet. But any captured nobles will remain in your dungeon where they can escape, be broken out of, or, hopefully in the future, be ransomed. Also, you can add to your garrison from this menu. So we'll go back, we'll go here, and we'll go to Manage Garrison. And this is handy because you can also pull units out of it, which I wouldn't really recommend unless you're hurting for troops, but you can also place troops in the garrison that you recover from enemy armies that were prisoners. So for instance, if you attack some looters or some mountain bandits that had a whole bunch of, I'll just say Valandian sharpshooters, you can go hold down Shift and left click and drop a bunch in there. So you now have a bigger garrison. It's a great way to kind of boost things up when you first take a city, or if you know an enemy army is coming, so on and so forth. So it's just a great way to shore up defenses for when you know when or if it'll get attacked. Moving back here though, you also get the stash. I mean, it's simply a bank to store items. Only cities have this, not castles, which is odd, but that is what it is. And lastly, you can talk to the governor or any governor that you've stationed here to get a status of your town. Now, this seems to be a generic statement and will probably lead to events or quests from the governor depending on issues with the town, but right now that doesn't seem to be implemented. You could click on the governor, you go to talk, and you just say, hey, what's the state of my town? And she just says, things are great, nothing's bad, nothing's good. Like, it's kind of like just a generic statement. But that kind of covers our keep. We'll go to the arena, nothing different here. We'll go to the tavern district, nothing different here. One thing to note though with the tavern district, if you do want to hire mercenaries, you can jump into the tavern. You have to physically go to the tavern and you can see if there are any mercenaries running about. It'll say like veteran mercenary crossbowmen. You talk to them and you can hire them. They won't appear up here or in this menu at all. You have to physically go into the tavern, and that is regardless of whether or not you own a city. That's just kind of like a really cool little side note there for you. Now, here's where things get tricky, the Manage Town button. So let's dive in on that. So here's the thing that you all probably came here for. So let's go through these options as best we can, because some things are not implemented just yet, but you can see where some things are missing or what they might be, so on and so forth. But part of this screen will be split with discussing certain skills as well. So we'll go to that after this section, because that's what's going to be crucial to who you appoint as a governor. So the top of the screen gives you 3 sets of information. The shops of the settlement, you can change at whim according to what you'd like. The chief consumption of the town from the market, from the little market basket here, to possibly help shore up the town's resources. This is really crucial when it comes to deciding what kind of food they want or what their current food stocks are, so on and so forth. So make sure that this consumption category is in line with your food category, which we'll go into in a little bit. And then lastly, your bound villages. Now, these show you what local villages will be bringing into your town on a regular weekly basis. So primary production is Midlands Palfrey. Primary production is grain. So those little packs of villagers you see will actually be bringing these physical items in to your village itself. Now, the next data set is where you'll find a lot of nuanced information that is, again, nested in the tooltips. So let's go over those. So for one, you have your governor. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Set someone here with high engineer or stewardship skills. And there's a caveat to that at the end of this section with the skills themselves we'll talk about, like I said, later. But next is your population tax. This will be influenced by your local kingdom's policies that have been enacted, steward skills, or any other outlying circumstances, such as the marketplace building line. As you can see here, it says, I gotta hover over, I guess, just keep there. Plus 10 bonus to taxes. But another thing that might affect this too is your culture, any number of things that'll say, hey, this affects your town's taxes. Next up is your prosperity. And this is the stat I think is most important next to loyalty. This expanded tooltip will give you information on what is affecting the prosperity and thusly the loyalty, daily production, and militia of your city. Make sure you have this up at all times, either from daily defaults, steward skills, or projects such as the aqueducts. It's crucial because so much hinges upon it. And you can get a breakout here. Okay, so our empire prosperity bonus, because this is an empire native town. Oh, but our food shortage is suffering this. Goods from the market are giving a bonus. It's food variety more than anything. Aqueducts bonus, you can see right here. Plus 2 bonus to prosperity change, plus 4 bonus to prosperity change. And that will increase in our 3rd tier as well. And then plus 1 from the loyalties field, which we'll go to in a little bit. Now, next is our daily production. Now, this is another important field because this is the amount of quote-unquote work, I guess you could say, that your villagers put in on a daily basis to the projects that you select. And that's this queue right over here on the right, which we'll go into in a little bit too. So, for instance, we have a daily production of 85, and a workshop, let's just go to that, will cost 520 production to make. So do some basic math and you can find out the amount of days it will take for your town to produce that project. Again, influence this from your steward line, projects such as the lime kilns, you can see right there, and also workshops influence this as well as giving you a bonus to hammers. Now, you can see the little hammer icon clashing right there. This doesn't mean that you're going to be able to produce more buildings at once. It just means it's going to help with your daily production. This might also be something that's not fully implemented into the game just yet. So take that with a grain of salt, that the bonus to hammers might actually mean a little bit more. And the workshops themselves also have other benefits we'll talk about in a bit. But our next thing here is security. And security is essentially the level of local corruption or banditry in the town. A higher garrison grants additional security, and it will help prevent prisoners from breaking out or being sprung out of prison, while also adding to overall loyalty the higher this score is. Now, the other big piece of the pie, like I was saying, prosperity is pretty big, but it's loyalty. Now, so many factors go into this one, as you can full see. Take a look at our town. The people are starving, as indicated in our next field, food, but we'll go to that. Also, this is an empire town, and we're Valandian, so there is a negative impact from culture. Same thing with our governor, who is not empire and thus causing a further impact on loyalty. but we're getting a bonus from fairgrounds and our overall security. And you can also enact daily defaults and steward skills to help this out. Also, again, policies. Policies play a huge part in your town management because it can help shore up little tiny negatives or actually little tiny bonuses here and there. So when you are enacting policies and you don't own a city yet, make sure that those policies from your kingdom menu aren't going to overall hinder running a city for yourself. I guess this is actually a town because it's called a town, but I think of these, this is a city, this is a village, and the castle a castle. So I'm sorry if my nomenclature is off here. But let's now jump into food. Now, food is a finicky one. You're kind of riding a knife's edge with this one, so it requires looking at the consumption field to see what the city needs more of and supplying it to help level out food. Also, with high prosperity, you also have a significant penalty to food since your people are out, merrymaking inside instead of, staying indoors, goddamn peasants. Now, you'll also notice that a high garrison, our garrison is almost maxed out, is also a massive bomb on the food shortage. But this menu gives you a real detailed breakout of where the food is coming from. Our villages, grain, other food sources like, cheese, butter, meat, so on and so forth, and what projects, defaults, and skills can influence it here. So if we take a look at this, we can see that there's other, I believe it's over here. Yeah, granary helps out with food stocks. I thought another one helped out with food. Irrigation helps out with your food production. So make sure you're looking at these projects, at these defaults, and the steward skills, which we'll get to in a little bit too. Now, our last complex field is the militia, and this will deal with your individual towns, the city, and defending against raids/enemy armies. Stuff like militia barracks will help boost this militia and give your villages and cities even more native defense. If you have really high garrisons, it's not as important to your city itself, but you do want to keep your villages defended as they're necessary for so much to your city as far as all the values we've talked about thus far. You've seen how food comes in from your villages. You've seen how your loyalty can be affected by starving, which is a result of the food, your daily production. All these things are all so important and interlinked here. And I think that militia is really going to help you out because even though prosperity and loyalty are important, no one field is absolutely useless and can be spared. They're all very interconnected, like I said. And then lastly, we have reserve. Now, this one is pretty self-explanatory, but you can inject gold into your city in 10K increments. That will boost your project build time for a rate of 500 a day. And I think it's pretty necessary to boost up, but only do it as your income will allow. Don't go bankrupt building your reserve. Buildings are created so fast and so passively that you really don't need to manage much of anything once you kind of build out a big queue here. So let's talk about projects and defaults now. So projects and defaults will differ based off of what type of town this is, not your individual culture. So this is an empire town, so we have things like aqueducts, lime kilns, forums, stuff that are not present in Valandian towns, even though that we are a Valandian vassal. So each one of these might be a different name, but the overall result will probably be the same. I think some cultures have specific buildings that other ones don't, so it kind of gives bonuses one way or another depending on what it is. So you can see, we'll just go across the board here. Fortifications, and they tell you right there in the lower right corner, better fortifications and higher walls around town also increases the max garrison limit since it provides more space for the resident troops. So +5 bonus to garrison capacity, +50 garrison capacity. And then as you move through this, you'll help out more so with your garrison capacity with garrison barracks. Each level increases garrison capacity of the stronghold, so you can get a nice big garrison going between these two. And also fortifications will make the walls physically different and more imposing. And you'll be able to have more slots to produce catapults, ballista, stuff like that on the walls themselves. So fortifications is actually very important, especially if you have a castle, because it seems that they attack castles first. Next up, we have training fields, which is going to give bonus experience to the garrison troops. So if you want to level up a bunch of troops, you can do this. So you'll boost your training fields. You'll go to the keep. You'll manage your garrison. And let's say I want to take, let's just say these guys. I want them to be the max level. Well, I'm going to pop them over here. and I'll press done, and they'll stay here in the garrison gaining levels, and then I can pop them back into my my actual what's it called, party. Now, I've heard that the big caveat with this right now is it has to be a unit that does not require a horse. So I think if I take a look at these guys, they require horses, so they won't progress, and they have to have a single progression line. I've heard that's the big caveat right now because of a bug, but hopefully in the future that shouldn't be the case, and they can produce if horses are present within the town, so on and so forth. So for instance, Battanian Highborn Warriors is a very big one to put inside your garrison, because they'll go to the Battanian Fian champions, which are just badass right now. So this is a great way to get your single branch non-horse units to max level easily by then just dropping them in your garrison and letting them level up passively. Now back over here to manage town. Fairgrounds will help out with the settlement morale, aqueducts with prosperity, militia here with your barracks. Your marketplace will help out with taxes, and forums with influence, your owner's influence. I believe this is obviously specific to Empire, and I know Valandia does not have an equivalent of this in castles, at least. I have not been able to look at a Valandian town. Now, Granary will help out with your food stocks, which will help you out significantly with your loyalty and your prosperity. So, again, a lot of these are going to overlap into these big stats up here. If you are struggling with these stats up here, look at your projects, look at your daily defaults, look at your policies, look at your skills, because these things are all going to be influenced by that. Your production, your security, all those are going to be heavily influenced by prosperity and loyalty heavily. Not that I've just said the word twice, but moving into workshops. Workshops also help out with repairing your walls. Now, why that's important is if your city gets attacked, if you've not personally sieged a city, then you don't know that the AI will constantly build catapults to try and break down the walls before they actually assault the city. The workshops will help repair that and build catapults to match back and destroy the catapults attacking your city. So workshops are pretty huge in defense. Your siege workshop will also help with that, repairing walls, building and repairing siege engines as well, making sure to help with that wall repair speed. Then lime kilns, lastly, will give you a bonus to village production. Now, as you queue these up, you press this little add button and it'll just kind of queue them up. There, there. Some of these are at max, so I can't do it. But if you want, you can click this button. That'll jump it to the top of the queue and clear your queue, which I think might be a bug. And I think it's supposed to just jump it to the top. So if you want, let's say you're building your fortifications already, right? And you want to instead build the workshops. You'll just press 1, workshops will jump to the front, and it'll now be in queue. A little active hammer will tell you what's going on. And then lastly, our daily defaults. These will not affect the queue. They'll constantly be going no matter what. They're just a daily switch. So if you have irrigation, you'll press this and it'll switch over that midday or at the end of the day. So build houses helps out prosperity. Militia, +1 bonus to militia will help out with militia. Festival games will help out with settlement morale, and then your irrigation will help out with food production. But our last portion of this is talking about the stewardship and the engineer line, because those skills are going to be pretty instrumental to managing your cities. Now here is Ellis, our governor for this town, and I said steward and engineering, but really I just meant these bottom two categories: charm, leadership, trade, steward, medicine, and engineering. Now what I want you guys to do is take a look at the fact that this character comes at 120 skill, and because of a bug in the game, none of these skills are actively selected. If you recruit a character at a certain range of skill, you cannot do anything about what has been selected so far. I believe in a patch they'll probably fix this, and you can maybe respec or even personally select anything that you recruit at a certain skill range. But hover over these skills. You see how it says tax collector governor? So if you're the governor, then it's 10% more tax from villages. Look at this one. This is for a clan leader. So look for abilities and skills that say governor. See, this one says personal, 30% more production from farms. So some of these things will only apply to this individual. And they'll apply more so if the individual is a governor too. So like I said, for this one, tax collector, it's not going to just be present across the entire clan. It has to be if they're the governor. So look for those little tags there. So as you kind of move your way through this, okay, this one says quartermaster. So you have to be the quartermaster for this one to kick in. Look for these little tags on the skills, and it will tell you which stewardship skills are going to be best for your NPCs or your player character that you want to be, well, I guess maybe your actual NPCs that you want to actually have as governors. Because then this will influence how you jump down all of these trees. The engineering one has got a couple here for governor as well. Party member, governor, so take a look. Fortifications are much stronger. This one I think was speed of building castles and walls increased by 30%. Charm has got a couple in here too, I think. I saw it just a second ago. A lot of charm is all personal, as you would expect. It's the latter portions of the line. Here we go. Effort for the people. Town governor has a 10% chance to gain one relation with a random notable per day with continuous projects while continuous projects are active. So find the things on here that really apply to you as a party member, a governor, whatever you want for your NPC. Just keep in mind that there are skills that are going to benefit that individual as a governor. So clearly this person doesn't have any of the governor specific skills. And again, I think it's because of a bug right now. Hopefully we'll be able to choose those skills when we choose the character if we don't have auto allocate skills turned on. And that ability is right here. You press escape, campaign options, auto allocate clan member perks. So those perks have not been selected period in the game. So hopefully that patch will fix that. But the last little field I want to talk about real quick, because smithy is the same and waiting doesn't really matter. Same thing with trade, but it's recruit troops. Now, normally if you have zero relation with someone, which we do for the most part here, right? We have up to 4 here with the Tanner. You can only recruit from these first 2 columns. Well, being the owner of this city, I can recruit from the 3rd and the 4th column. So make sure that you're taking advantage of this. You can recruit higher tiered, higher ranked troops in your own personal cities and towns if you actually have ownership of them. So really take a look at that when you are deciding what troops you want to grab. And last little thing about cities here before we jump into castles, and castles will be a fast little section, is so if we take a look, okay, Jamaris, we own, our bound villages are Igoska and Dradios, right? Igoska and Dradios. Well, my character, I should probably kind of run around here and make sure that there's no mountain bandits attacking my villagers, because those villagers, like I was saying earlier, are going to be bringing physical goods into your town. It's going to affect your income, your prosperity, everything. So make sure every so often you either have a party that's kind of patrolling this area or you do it yourself. Killing looters and bandits is valuable even into the later portions of the game, because those looters and bandits become larger parties that you still get more and more experience from. So hopefully this section helped you out with cities, and let's jump on over to castles real quick. All right, and here we are at Drappin Castle to quickly close our video out here. There's not much difference between castles and cities. For the most part, it's exactly the same. I thought lime kilns were part of the Empire. They're not. They're actually generic buildings. So it looks like aqueducts and forums were the big Empire things. But also you get the Castellan's office here. Now this helps out with more than just reducing militia during rebellion. You can see it does give you a +1 to your militia here, but it also helps out with your daily production, and it helps out with other portions of your overall castle management. So as a whole, there's not much different here from your city. It's pretty much the same. You're going to be doing the exact same things. Do your projects, your daily defaults, and maintain vigilance on your villages, making sure that you defend them so they can produce and deliver physical goods to surrounding cities and your own castle itself. But hopefully this video kind of helped you guys out with getting a better idea on how to manage your cities, your castles, and thusly your villages. So a huge shout out once more to Border Collie PT for helping me out here. And I do want to show you guys this really cool custom banner thing that he showed me as well. I'll put a link to it in the description. You can make your own custom banners. You can go check out the subreddit Bannerlord banners if you want to see a whole ton of really awesome custom ones. But for the most part, guys, hopefully you get a better idea of what's going on. The castles, like I said, are pretty automatic. and the cities themselves are the things that are really going to take a lot of brain power. And once we get a lot of patches and bugs resolved, a lot of this system should be more fleshed out. So again, take some of this with a grain of salt. Some things will be included in future patches, but if you have any other questions or any other comments or stuff you want to tell as far as tips go, please by all means go ahead and leave them in the comments below. I'll pin the one that I think is like most pertinent, or I'll make a super pin of all the really good suggestions, guys. But as always, thank you so much for watching here today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that action, but have a good one and take care.